Hi, welcome back to All Things Data. Today we're moving on to a slightly different topic. We're talking about bots. We've broken this podcast up into 2 episodes just because it is such a broad and large topic, and we'll be talking about it over the next 2 weeks. And without further ado, let's get going.
Hi, Victor. So we hear all about chatbots and we think we know a bit about them. Can you tell us some of the basics?
Yeah, that's a great place to start for sure. The world of chatbots is kind of pervasive if you basically have a cell phone or really almost any television service, if you've interacted with a customer service in the past 20 years. This may not actually be the first version of chatbots or of chat technology that existed, but some of the early stuff that did exist and got used a lot commercially in business settings was the IVR. So really the IVR it's the phone systems where you call in and you start having a discussion and it prompts you, hit 3 for this, hit 4 for that, whatever. So sort of like answering machines, if you want to go to like the very early stages, were another form of chat technology, because you're saying, hey, I know I'm not here, but do an action, and the action is leave me a message. More recently, we've all, because of cell phones again, and really the FANGs, the companies that are huge and do this en masse, we've all interacted with chatbots. On the Apple network with Siri, Google has its own chatbot, and then of course Amazon has Alexa. And we've all interacted and seen all kinds of memes and funny things that happens also with chatbots. And that's largely because in the past, chatbots had been thought of and implemented using sort of a decision tree algorithm. If I see this, do this. If I hear this or whatever, understand that this is the question, I'm going to answer like this. That worked okay, but you needed an exact answering question, like a set of answering questions that were very determined prior to any sort of interaction. So along with that came, or after that came, natural language processing, which actually gives us the ability to turn language into more machine readable and usable data, and that helped chatbots quite a bit. We then moved on to natural language understanding, which is a subfield that allowed the chatbot to understand the question slightly better, so that the decision tree wasn't just the only way that I answer to a hello is with a hi, or it is by having a hi in front of it. Now there are many ways that I'll know to proceed with that line of questioning as a chatbot. And then slightly better was natural language generation, which is a hot topic generally. But that's the bot sort of having a sense of what it needs to answer, but it generates the speech based on the questions as they come. So it's more human sounding, agent sounding, and it's one of those things that may at some point pass the Turing test, where you don't know whether it's a machine or a person. And then the chatbots themselves are still getting better with machine learning and AI, where they're able to understand and then gather information about their understanding. It's sort of like how humans start to learn. It's like, we know that we messed up, so next time we won't make the same mess up, or we know that somebody really enjoyed the conversation, so we might go in that direction after as well. I think that sort of gives a pretty holistic picture of the world of chatbots.
Right. So it seems we all probably interacted with chatbots in the past. How has the technology improved over the past few years?
Cool. When we got into the world of NLP, so you're getting into like actual intelligence more so than anything. I mean, prior to that, developers were implementing them by this, then that, if this, then that, all the way through, which is traditional development. But when you got into NLP, like now you started to generate a data set about the article, the corpus, whatever it is that your chatbot had to understand. And it's usually a set of articles or documents or something. So like really the first stuff was it sort of synthesized a bit of what was going on there, and it gave the ability for better answers. Next, it was that it could understand questions as they came in, and that started happening pretty recently, but with natural language understanding, where most good chatbots will take a myriad of different questions and answer similarly to them. Maybe the exact same answers if they're not generating speech after. But the next step of this is natural language generation, so where a bot can generate speech based on some ideas. So maybe it understands the topics or the kind of answer that you would want, because maybe this is strictly a customer service bot and it's transactional and you're like, how much would it cost to ship this to Bradford, Ontario? And the bot may just pull that up and go, okay, to get to Bradford on. So it's generating language, but it can even get better at generating language where it's not just a templated language, it actually generates language that is understandable.
Right.
That's a next level and slightly more impressive and obviously better sounding to normal people. Then finally, it's like we alluded to, it's talking about machine learning and AI and really serving the best information as quickly as possible, but doing that based on many, many customer interactions. So it's sort of like a fine wine as it gets better with age. The chatbots themselves will consistently and constantly be retraining themselves based on the answers and feedback that it gets, and hopefully get to a place where it's really, really good. That kind of chatbot, I mean, the fun thing about those chatbots is when you develop them, if you want to make them crazy, you can talk to them crazy, and then they will basically spit back a lot of that same sort of feeling and understanding, right? In the end, what you want to do and where people want to go with these chatbots is sort of where we've gotten to with them, which is an unsupervised chatbot. So you get to an unsupervised conversational AI where you say, here's a bunch of stuff I need you to know, go know it. By go know it, I'm messing up language on purpose here because it's going to go learn, but I didn't want to use the word learn. So go know all this information, understand all the stuff about it, summarize it internally, build yourself a little synthesized engine and brain about it, and then allow us to talk to you about this stuff. So the really good bots, including ours, do that specifically.
Okay, so you talked about this briefly earlier. So these developers no longer need to craft every possible response. What else can these conversational AI agents do these days?
Okay, let's just leave all the old chatbots behind at this point and pretend that they don't exist. We're just into the conversational AI side, so like the really good chatbots. Some of the problems that you used to have, and here's how it would have gone. I have the ability as a chatbot to answer 6 things. If you don't ask me specifically one of those 6 things, I'm probably just going to say, do you mind asking me a different question? Or whatever that message is that says, I'm at a dead end.
Right.
Dead end was a very common thing that happened with chatbots,
Yeah.
IVRs, all kinds of technology where you were trying to interact with stuff. So a conversational AI will be able to have chit chat with you. So you've probably seen this with like whichever platform you have, let's say it's Alexa, and you're like, hey Alexa, who's the coolest person on earth? Like, that's not a really answerable question, but Alexa will say something fun or something funny. You know, like, it's also been a little program for some of these questions, but it's able to generate some of these on the fly. So that's kind of cool that it doesn't get to a dead end. We started talking a little bit about like e-commerce and transactional stuff. So you could have a chatbot who's basically acting like your travel agent or like your mortgage broker or any of these things. Because those people, what they're doing is taking in information and then going through their experience or their databases or whatever it is and trying to figure out a solution to your problem, which is, I want to fly to Barbados on the 15th of October. And it's just like, okay, well, here are 5 flights. You know, the travel agent is just presenting back information to you. So it's not something that a chatbot couldn't do, right? You could imagine that even if it was a one-on-one customer interaction where you're actually a logged in customer who's had transaction history with them, you may want to be able to talk to that chatbot about your transaction history. And a good example of this is some of the automated systems like that Amazon has, where you can start interacting with the bot and it says, do you mean about this order? And it brings up some of your past orders and you click on it, and now you're talking about that order and you can see different actions that can be done, and you can also interact and talk about that order with the chatbot. So you could do that en masse, you could do that about very different things. You could do this about all kinds of records. Some of the issues with this is really privacy and protection of sensitive information, like especially health and finance information. However, if you're properly logged in and properly authenticated, and maybe it's no different than you authenticating with the person on the phone. It's like, what's your birthday? What's your passcode? What's all these things? So now that they know it's you, you can have these sort of interactions. And then really the greatest part of it all is just setting a chatbot free on your corpus or your topics or your website or whatever it is that you want to know a lot about, and then asking the chatbot open-ended questions about those things that it learned. That's where you get into like the really cool chatbots, like the ones that we've built, where you're basically, I'm gonna let you loose on a bunch of information, and then take your time and learn it. It's gonna take a little while, but as soon as you understand it in the hours that it takes to understand, now I can talk to you like you're the expert on that information. And getting that expertise almost for free means you can drive down a little bit of customer service and increase your margins. You can drive down a little bit of sales costs and increase your margins, and lead gen costs. So there's a lot of the external interactions that can be helped. You could do something for your partners as well. You could do this internally for your staff if you're researching all kinds of things. So, I mean, to have the employee at your company that knows everything about your company and all the documents and everything that's been written, and you can ask it, that's a wonderful resource to have. It's like having employee number one at wherever you work who sat at everybody's desk forever and just always was a sponge and took in all that information, because now you have context. So you could even use this as an onboarding tool or a training tool if you were to turn it into that. So there's a myriad and a slew of different use cases for these better bots that are generated from real knowledge rather than from over-programming, in a sense. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So thank you for tuning in to All Things Data. This has been part 1 of the Chatbots episode. Next week, we'll dive into cost-benefit analysis and a little bit of the juxtaposition between rule-based and supervised AI versus unsupervised AI. All right, have a great day.